guys, I'm Trina and this is my book review for The Seafarer's Kiss by Julia Ember. I was sent an early copy of this book by the author in exchange for an honest review, and this book is coming out on May 4th. I'm going to be telling you my review, what I liked, what I disliked about it, and I hope that I will also be able to let you guys know if this is a book that you will enjoy or not, based on some of the themes and tropes that are included in it. As for what this book is about, this is a Norse mythology inspired retelling of The Little Mermaid, and we are following a main character who is a mermaid. She lives in this underwater mer kingdom that expects her to mate with this merman that she's been best friends with ever since they were kids, but she isn't really interested in the life that they have planned out for her. She's much more interested in the human world, and one day as she is exploring the site of a shipwreck, she comes across a human girl who has survived, and she ends up falling in love with this human girl instead of the mer boy that she was expected to partner up with. So this main character is bisexual, and that is own voices representation. Some other things that are represented in this book are that the main character is also fat, and we have a side character who is non-binary, who uses they, them pronouns all throughout the book. Before I get into my review, I am going to give a trigger warning for both the book and this video as to some content that is included in the book that I will be discussing. This book does portray violence in a romantic relationship. I do want to discuss that a little bit later in this video, but I'm going to do it without spoilers. I'll tell you like what happened, but I don't want to give you like a lot of the background on it or why it happened, because I definitely want this video to be non-spoiler since the book isn't out yet, and I really want to help you guys decide if this is one that you want to read or not. I rated this book 3.5 stars, and what that means to me is that there was a lot that I really liked about this book, and overall I think of it pretty positively, but there was that one aspect of the violence in the romantic relationship that really knocked 1.5 stars off of my rating. I have had about 2 weeks since finishing this book to really reflect on my feelings on that, and I just am not happy with that portrayal in this book, so that did affect my enjoyment of this story overall. And I'm not trying to like trash the book or discourage you from picking it up, so I'm actually going to move in now to some of the things that I really liked. I loved this book as a Little Mermaid retelling. It is so true to the original story because everything that happens, you can see how it parallels to the original tale, but this book twists the retelling. It's actually told from a totally different angle that I was not expecting going in. I think it's probably pretty obvious, but I didn't expect it, and I absolutely loved it. And because this is inspired by Norse mythology, it just felt so new and refreshing. This one just excels as a retelling in my opinion because it's very loyal, but it also has room for surprises. I also really love that this was a true mermaid story. This isn't a retelling that like turns it into a YA contemporary or like envisions the Ariel character as a human or gives her legs every summer and stuff like that. I don't like that. I like mermaids, and this was a real mermaid underwater setting, and these mermaids had scales and tails and gills, so this was like the mermaid story of my dreams. I have been pretty unsatisfied with all the other Little Mermaid retellings that I have tried. This one definitely will fit that for you. If you're looking for a Little Mermaid retelling, I would definitely recommend this book. It definitely did that part so well. The story itself was also very fast-paced and action-packed, and this is a very short book and a lot happens, and I really appreciated that. Once I had like a small adjustment period to get into the story, and then it just like grabbed me and did not let go. So it was a very fun and engaging experience. Something about this book that I appreciated but didn't know if it was done to the best of its ability is that in this society there is kind of a dystopian feel, and this is a society that values fertility of the mermaids. They are all expected to mate, to lay eggs, raise eggs, and some pretty harmful words such as broken and damaged are used to describe the mermaids who either don't want to reproduce or they can't reproduce, and that's a very sensitive topic, so heads up to that. However, I did feel like the story was trying to challenge that idea very heavily. They were trying to get out of that way of thinking, and it did show it as bad. I love that the book was taking on a sexist culture, and I definitely think that is something that I would like to see more of in YA books. The reason that I say I felt kind of iffy about this element of the story is because it's such a short book that I didn't feel like there was enough time able to be spent on that topic. Like, you really had a couple of lines about it and that was it. And I do think it would have benefited the message and the intent if a little bit more time had been spent discussing that, because just seeing a world where women are called broken and damaged if they don't want to or can't reproduce, that's pretty harmful. And so for there not to be a lot of time spent on challenging that, you may end up coming away from the book just being upset by that portrayal. So now I'm going to move into my discussion about the abuse that was present in this relationship. So actually there is a love triangle in this story, and I don't think it's a very strong love triangle. I really think only one side of it is ever built up as a relationship, but all three of the characters in that love triangle are violent towards each other within the book. Since I received an early copy of this book, then I know that this is subject to change, so I'm not going to read you the quote word for word because it may not be included in the final copy of this book, even though I think I have a finished copy, but that also would give you a spoiler for something else that happened. So I'm not going to quote it for you, but the main thing that I have issue with took place on page 191. The two characters in the main romantic pairing get into an argument and they punch each other in the face. I'm not even kidding, I'm not exaggerating. They literally punch each other in the face. This behavior was barely addressed, it was never challenged, and the romantic relationship went on to grow stronger from there, and a few pages later I felt that these characters were being aggressive towards each other again, though not in a punch you in the face kind of way. The very brief way in which this was addressed was that you had one of the characters saying, I shouldn't have done that, and another character says, I won't do that again. And I don't believe that this is addressed enough, because even if you look on like real life domestic violence websites, you will see that one incident of violence in a relationship is a red flag for an abusive relationship, and habitual abusers often promise that they won't do it again, or they know it's wrong and they still keep doing it again. Like I said, the third character in this love triangle was also abusive. He grabs, shakes, and pushes the main character, and then he literally tries to kill the love interest. So yeah, all three of the people in this romantic pairing trio were they were violent towards each other, and I didn't like it. As far as the two female characters, I do want to say I don't feel like either one of them are abusers. They weren't manipulating each other. There wasn't a power imbalance. So, you know, I'm not sitting here trying to say this is an abusive relationship, but it does show a sign of abuse that is not addressed, that served no purpose, that could have been written out in the book and the story, and these characters would not have suffered in any way. It didn't need to be there, and I feel like there are a million other ways to write your characters having conflict or even having hot tempers without actually making them punch their romantic partner in the face. That is not okay. And I have not seen any of the early reviews for this book pointing that out, so that's one of the reasons why I am pointing it out, because I know that I do have some viewers who are younger viewers and they're concerned with the content in the books that they're reading, or I have viewers who are parents of younger viewers and they're concerned with the content in the books that they're letting their kids read, and I have viewers that watch my channel who are survivors of an abusive relationship, and this would be very triggering for them. So if that's something that is sensitive to you, if it would be triggering to you, if you don't want to read about it, that is included in this book. And for those of you who are just stumbling upon this video, if you aren't familiar with me or my channel, I have lived through an abusive relationship in my past. It was an emotionally abusive one, not physically abusive, but this is something that I point out a lot in my book reviews because I have real life experience with that. Even though I really loved so much about this book, I'm not going to let it slide on this physical abuse when it's something that I've been pointing out in a lot of the other book reviews that I make. The reason that this violent act in the Seafarer's Kiss is a concern to me is because the main character is a teenager, and this book is, so far that I can see, is being marketed as a young adult book. There are readers on the younger end of the YA spectrum, or even younger than YA, who are going to pick this book up, who are still developing their ideas on what romance and relationships should be like. So when they read a book that has a very heavily romantic theme to it, and the two romantic partners are punching each other in the face, barely addressing it, going on to be aggressive again, and the relationship just grows from there, that's where it becomes a concern for me and a lot of other readers. I definitely don't think that this book showed that action in a bad enough light. To me, it was a problematic relationship, and I could not get behind it, and because so much of the main plot and our main character's motivations were driven by this romance, if you don't support the relationship, it's so prevalent in the story, it's going to affect whether or not you enjoy the story, most likely. So with all of that said, I know that I really disliked that one part, and I did want to discuss it and bring it to your attention, but that does not erase or negate the positive things about this book. This book does have that bi-representation, and I definitely think that if you're looking for Own Voices bi-representation of a female-female relationship, this is probably a book that you would really enjoy, and I would definitely recommend it to you as that. I would also highly recommend this book to you as a Little Mermaid retelling. I just think it was excellent as a retelling in terms of the story. However, I'm not going to recommend this book as a romance. Like, there are are so many other better examples of romances out there, of even female-female bisexual romances that don't involve any sorts of abuse. One that I can think of off the top of my head was Of Fire and Stars by Audrey Coulthurst. The stories are very different, but it does also show a bisexual female-female relationship about two princesses that fall in love, and I didn't find that relationship to be problematic in that book. So in the end, do I think that you would like this book? If you like Norse mythology, if you're looking for own voices bi representation, if you're looking for fat representation, if you're looking for a Little Mermaid retelling, if you love mermaids and you like fast-paced fantasy stories, I think you would enjoy this book. On the other hand, if you're going to be triggered by women's worth being defined by their fertility or violence in a romantic relationship, this might be one that you want to skip. This book also includes the tropes of the love triangle and the not like other girls trope, and if either of those are tropes that you just can't stand reading about, then you may not enjoy this story. But for what it's worth, like I said, I felt like the love triangle was very weak, and I thought that the not like other girls trope was challenged. But I hope that that gives you an idea of whether or not you will enjoy this book. So those are all my thoughts on The Seafarer's Kiss by Julia Ember. As you can tell, I had quite mixed opinions on this book. I did not enjoy the relationship in it at all, because of that moment of violence, but then again, this is one of my favorite Little Mermaid retellings I have ever read. So there's good and bad about this book, and I hope that this video has helped you determine if it's one that you want to pick up or not. If you have already read this one early, I would love to discuss it with you further in the comments, and if you're looking forward to it, I would love to know that as well. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the comments. Bye!